Hey everybody, it's Elliot from Little Punk People here, and today I'm here with Barney of Napalm Dad.
I'm
Are you ready?
yeah. How are you?
Good, how
What
are
a
you?
what an introduction. I can't live up
Thank
to
you.
that.
Thank you so much. Let's do this.
Yeah, sure.
If the 12-year-old version of yourself was able to hear this album as a gift from the future, how would he react?
He would be into it because I know 12, 13 years old, I was on that path of searching for extremity, even back then, which is why I guess I'm in the band that I'm in. I was always after the extremity. So, that was around the time a couple of years later we were starting to get Celtic Frost, the first Slayer album, and also punk bands like GBH, Discharge. So it was a fertile time for my 12-year-old self.
Nice. If the planet could speak to us in one sentence using English words, what do you think it would say?
Stop ruining my day.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Do you think people would listen to that?
Well, they should. They
Yeah,
better add
hopefully.
soon as well. I would say.
Hopefully. Your really cool song, Invigorating Clutch, sounds like a cult ritual. What is that song about?
Well, it's certainly not about a cult ritual, that I can tell you. No, it's about if you can imagine, because we're talking on the out, we're basically standing in defence of marginalised peoples, and sort of, I guess, against things like racism, homophobia, etc., etc. So the invigorating clutch is holding on to somebody's throat. If you really hate somebody, that I think sometimes people have that image of having their hands around somebody's throat, and I guess the conclusion is, how can you hate somebody that much that you want to do something of that nature to somebody?
Yeah.
So it's peace and love, my friend, all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can eliminate one bad thing in this world, what would that be?
Inhumanity. Start there, and everything else would come afterwards, I would suggest.
Nice. That eliminates a lot of bad things on this planet.
Yeah.
Just by, yeah. Some of your albums sounds apocalyptic. Do you think we'll live to see the apocalypse?
Well, it depends if you believe in an apocalypse or not. So, from a scriptural point of view, no, I absolutely do not. It's all a bit silly for me, that is. But I do think that if we've had nuclear treaties for what they're worth, in terms of the reduction of nuclear weapons. But it does seem that that's gone in reverse, which should worry everybody, because these things haven't gone away.
What is the meaning behind the new album cover art?
Right. So it's we use a lot of Napalm uses a lot of metaphor and a lot of sort of different art forms to express things. So you see the bird on there is the dove, and obviously the dove is an international symbol of peace, and a few other things, peace and tolerance and all the rest of it. So you can see the dove has been very badly violated, by the gloved hand, very sterile, like gloved hand. So that represents an attempt to stifle peace and good, sort of the ideal world that we've perhaps been talking about in some of these answers. But if there is one positive to come out of it, you can see on the chest of the dove, in the blood, you see the E symbol, which is a recognized symbol of equality. So that's showing that something positive is coming out of this very grim situation.
That is another. I noticed that E. I'm like, what does that stand for? What does that mean?
Yeah, equality. The E with a circle around it is a symbol for equality.
Awesome. If your music took the form of an animal, what animal do you think it would be?
Um, Let me think of a really chaotic animal. God. I'm trying to think of a generally very peaceful animal that reacts very badly to and just goes completely mad. I would say I would say probably a rhinoceros. Because it's a very peaceful animal ordinarily, which we are as people. But when provoked, it turns into a rampaging,
Hard.
thing that will knock you into the middle of next week, and it makes a very interesting sound as well when it's agitated, so that hits all bases, I would suggest.
What bands do you like to mellow out to that are not metal bands?
Not metal bands. I would say things like Cocteau Twins. If you've ever heard that band, very kind of mellow guitar music. Female band, which were great. Um, Bands like, I would say, also Explosions in the Sky. I don't know if you've ever heard that band. There's a really good band from yeah, they're really great. Very ambient stuff. What else? Let me think. I did hear something recently that was like really, really gentle. It sounded really good. I can't think at the moment. I'll just give you those two examples for now.
Okay, cool. Do you think there are better planets in the universe that we don't know about? Would you rather live there if you could?
Well, I do think that, there's always a possibility of life, where you have where you have neutrons and electrons and atoms and everything else, there is always the possibility of life. But I'm not, I think Earth, as it's been, as we obviously populate this Earth, I think naturally the world is therefore, this Earth is therefore probably most likely the most hospitable place in the universe, But I do think there are other possibilities out there potentially. I wouldn't say for sure, but I think potentially. Hey, man, we just don't know enough as yet, And while we don't know, I'm always going to be open-minded about it, So.
Well, this is the only planet we have right now, so let's.
Sure. Well, that's the point, man. We need to really, generally, I'm talking about right now, they need to really wake up about this stuff, because the way some people just kind of brush it off, it's not, in the end, it's not only them that gets affected by this stuff, it's everybody, so we've got to make sure that we deal with this stuff seriously, not just token gestures. Fossil fuels have that whole reliance on that has got to stop. It has to.
Yeah. What do you do to feel better when life overwhelms you? How do you conquer anxiety?
So what I tend to do is I guess it's basically exercise. I've recently again become sort of big on, I love cycling and stuff like that, and that's a really good form of getting your endorphins going and just feeling good about the day. I used to run. I used to run a lot. Back in the day, I used to run, not just on a personal level, but within the school system and stuff like that, for competitively a little bit. I love it. But unfortunately, I've got an old injury, like a calf injury, that's recurring, and I can't shake it off. So whenever I go running, like, say, if I was to spread it over 5 days a week, by the third day, I'd just pull up again with this injury. It's just a small tear in the calf muscle, and it's really, you just have to stop because you can't run on with it, So really frustrating. But the cycling is more low impact, so that really helps. So yeah, generally, I exercise is a good one, and I try to step back and be a little bit philosophical about these things. It's not always easy, because I have my moments as much as the next person. I can get very revved up about stuff, and I find it hard sometimes to lower the temperature a little bit. That is a little bit of a problem for me sometimes. But yeah.
Okay. What was your childhood like? What was school like for you? And did you like it?
Here's the thing. So my childhood was all right. It was okay, actually. My dad was a international worker, so I didn't see him for a lot of time. He worked. He was an electrical engineer. My dad. He worked all across the world, going as far as like some of the countries in the Middle East. He worked in America for quite a long time. My dad did, various different places. You know, he really did see the world. You know, so I didn't see him for large amounts of time. But you know, my childhood was all right. It was slightly difficult. You know, my mom, I guess you could say I came from like working class background. Um, you know, we weren't completely impoverished, but it wasn't, you know, we had to be careful, you know, it wasn't always easy. But in terms of school, I've always been a willing information sponge. You know, I just love to know what's going on, even for stuff that I find that I don't agree with. I feel that I should know, that I need to know, I need to have an understanding of things. You know, so so similarly at school, you know, I was really generally interested, you know, in learning and stuff. You know, I thought that, you know, the absorbing the facts and stuff. I just thought it was I did quite enjoy it.
That's good. How do you see the state of humanity in 5 years from now, and how do you hope to see it?
Well, you know, the point is that throughout time, the world has been a fantastic place, both a fantastic place and a terrible place at the same time. You know, there's always good and bad points. You know, so I think it's fairly likely to say it will be the same in 5 years' time. You know, some new things will come along, on you know, positively and negatively. What would I hope to see? Very much the thing that we mentioned earlier on. You know, I'd actually like to see a world that was more equitable, because it isn't right now. It's completely imbalanced. You know, the distribution of wealth in this world is just not correct. You know, the distribution of resources in this world is not correct. The fact that a small percentage of the world seems to have more civic possibilities than other parts of this world is not correct, you know. And so I'd like to see a shifting of the axis, you know. I'd like to see a shifting of the balance, you know, a redistribution of wealth. You know, the fact that we can feed the world, you know, completely, you know, with what's actually here on this earth. And if we've got it, why don't we? You know, I don't want to see people going hungry. It's just not, you know, if humanity means anything, if the human race means anything, if it's sustainable, then we need to start feeding people at the very least, you know.
Yes, that is another very, very good answer. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think we've covered everything, to be honest. I like to say, well, I suppose, you know, people will probably have heard the album by now. So it's been, and the feedback that we've had so far has been fantastic, you know. So I'd just like to say thanks for your support. It's always very much appreciated, and we'll never take it for granted, you know, and nor should we, you know. And yeah, great, you know, and thank you.
Thank you all so much for watching this, and make sure you check out the brand new album if you have not heard of it. If you probably did, but if you haven't, check it out. Throes of Joy in the Jaws of Defeatism. I love it, and awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.